China is one of the largest countries on earth. East to west, it stretches roughly the same distance as the continental United States, and yet, unlike the United States, Russia, Canada, or Australia, China runs on a single clock. Every city, every province, every region, one official time. Which raises a question: why would a country choose to ignore the sun? To understand China's choice, it helps to start with the why time zones exist at all. As the earth rotates, different places experience daylight at different times. The sun rises in the east first and works its way west over the course of hours. For most of the human history, towns simply set their clocks by the position of the sun overhead. Noon meant the sun was at its peak, that was local time. But as railways connected distant cities in the 19th century, having dozens of different local times became a logistical problem. Schedules couldn't function, coordination broke down. The solution was time zones, a standardized bands of time that kept regions roughly in sync with the sun while allowing distant places to coordinate. Most large countries adopted multiple time zones. The United States has 4 in the contiguous states, Russia spans 11, Canada, Australia, Brazil all use several. But China, which spans roughly the same longitude as 5 natural time zones, uses exactly 1. Here is where geography reasserts itself. How can the same clock work for places so far apart? The honest answer is it can't, not perfectly. China's standard time is calibrated to Beijing, which sits in the east of the country. For eastern cities like Shanghai, the clock and the sun agree reasonably well. Noon is close to when the sun is highest, but travel west deep into Xinjiang or across the Tibetan Plateau and the gap grows. In parts of western China, the sun doesn't reach its highest point until close to 2 p.m. In winter, the sun may not rise until 9 or 10 in the morning. Children head to school before dawn, office workers begin their day in darkness. In summer, the reversal is just as striking. Daylight stretches late into the evening, the clock reads 10 p.m. but the sky is still holding light. The same official time, vastly different experience of day. What happens when the official time doesn't match daylight? People adapt, quietly, practically. In western regions, daily schedules tend to shift later. Schools may open later in the morning, businesses delay their hours, lunch arrives later, dinner happens later. The clock doesn't change, life does. It's an informal accommodation not mandated by any policy but arrived at organically because the alternative is waking up, working and eating according to a clock that has little connection to the actual position of the sun. This kind of adaptation isn't unique to China. Workers in western Spain, which sits geographically closer to Britain but follows Central European time, famously eat dinner after 9 p.m. The clock says it's night, the body says otherwise. Time zones have always been a negotiation between geography and governance. China simply makes that negotiation more visible than most. In the far western region of Xinjiang, that negotiation has produced something unusual. Why do some people in China use 2 different clocks? Officially, Xinjiang follows Beijing time, the same as the rest of the country, but in practice, many residents operate on what is informally called Xinjiang time, which runs 2 hours behind. This isn't recognized by the central government, it isn't printed on official schedules, but it is used widely. Government offices, airports, and official institutions run on Beijing time, but local businesses, community events, and everyday social arrangements often follow Xinjiang time. Some shops display both clocks on the wall. When someone suggests meeting at 3 o'clock, a reasonable follow-up question is not where, but which time. It's an unofficial parallel system, one that arose not through policy but through the practical needs of people whose lives are oriented around the sun, not around a capital city more than 3,000 kilometers away. The bigger question is time really determined by nature or by the government? China's single time zone is a useful lens for thinking about that question. The sun follows its own schedule, indifferent to borders, It rises in the east and sets in the west, and no government decision changes that. What governments decide is how clocks relate to that reality, and sometimes, as in China's case, they decide that administrative consistency matters more than solar alignment. That's not necessarily wrong. There are real advantages to a unified time, simpler logistics, stronger coordination, a shared rhythm across a vast and a diverse country. But the cost is also real. In Western China, the official time and the natural time diverge by hours. The sun and the clock live in different worlds, and the people between them have to navigate both. China is not alone in making this kind of trade-off. It is simply the largest country to make it so completely. More than 1.4 billion people share a single official clock. In the East, that clock matches the sky closely enough. In the West, people wake before the sun, eat lunch when it is still climbing, and sometimes keep a second clock, which is unofficial, unrecognized, and quietly essential. Time, it turns out, is not simply a fact of nature. It is also a decision, and China's decision, made in 1949 and still in place today, tells us something worth understanding. That how a country counts its hours says something about what it values and what it is willing to ask its people to quietly work around.